All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. In today's video, we're going to be making this. And what this is a progress bar for my X1C and my A1 Mini. Now, out here in the man cave where I like to relax when I'm not 3D printing or working, I'd like an easy way to just glance over at something and tell what the progress is of my print. Now, I know I can jump on my phone or go to Bambu Studio or to Orca Slicer, things like that, but that takes a little bit of time. It'd be nice to just be able to glance over at it. And I thought for people that might have their printers out in their garage or down in their basement and they're up in their office or their living room, it'd be neat to have just a little visual reference to see what your print progress is, so that when I'm printing with my X1C, the print progress shows up on this bar. And when I want to print with my A1 Mini, the print progress shows up on this bar. So as you can see, while they're both printing, I can have the progress of each one of them going. So that's really, really nice. Some other things that I can do with this is if the print fails or stops or has an error, we can have it blink red or blink a certain color or something to let you know that something's wrong. And then when the print is done for each one of these, I have it blink green for 2 minutes to let me know that it's done. So in today's video, I'll show you the electronics that I used inside of here to make all of this work and show you some tips and tricks with that. We'll also go into WLED and I'll show you the settings to use for the percent is what this is called. And then I'll go into Home Assistant and show you how to set everything up to connect the percentage of your printer to the percentage for WLED. So if all that sounds good, then sit back and relax and I'll get everything ready. All right, so now let's take a look at all the parts that I used to put this together. So the first one is the controller. And again, stay away from that D1 Mini or the 8266. That thing did not work. This is an ESP32. I'll leave a link in the description. Much better board. I've used a couple of these now. I have my LED lights behind me going again, and I can't say enough. This is really, really good. So this is the heart of everything, and we'll go over where to wire everything on this here in a minute. I'll show a picture of this board and show some tips and tricks on there, but I did use that. I put that on one of these electro cookies. Top tip there. Get one of these DuPont connector kits or whatever kit that has these things in there. And you just break it off to where it fits on the board, and you solder this to the electro cookie. That way this board is removable from there, and that is a really good thing because you can wire other I/O pins and power and do all kinds of stuff, and it makes it much easier if you can remove this from the cookie board or the electro cookie or whatever. And I'll leave a link in the description for this as well as this kit here. So really, really good tip there. I forget which video I saw that on, but definitely do that. That makes a ton of difference there. Couple other things is I have this kit with these power connectors, these barrel connectors or whatever here, and this is a really good thing to have as well. I use this solid stranded wire here, and I'll leave a link to this wire here. So it is solid inside, so it doesn't have the little strands that you have to twist and try to get into these little holes and make a nightmare out of that. It's way easier to work with this stuff. We also have a 5-volt power supply that has the right barrel for this, so that it's easy to, plug and unplug the power to your whole system there. So I'll leave a link for this as well. This is really, really good. If you need to do more lights than what I'm showing here, I would not recommend this, and I would go ahead and get one of the larger power supplies so that you can have enough current to go to your LEDs. We need the standard W2812B, I think is what the LEDs are. These are the pretty standard ones, but these have a good density per meter. This is BTF lighting that I use there. And then I just got a channel, a couple of channels of this square LED channel stuff here with the diffuser on there. There's several options that you can do. I'll show you which one I use there. The one piece of feedback here is I got this shorter one so you can really see each pixel. I really don't like that. They have deeper channel of these, so if you don't want to see like each individual pixel and you want it to be more blurred out, get the deeper channel so it moves the LED further away from the diffuser here. That's another really good tip. And they do make the deeper channel. I'll leave a link to some deep channel as well. And then I just made a design in Fusion 360 to hold this in between, and then it has a cutout in the back that holds this in there. And to connect all of this, I used the Wago connectors. And if you've never used these before, these are really, really handy. And basically, you pull the tabs up, and you can strip wire and put it in there, right? So my connector here, I can put for the power. You just clip it down, it stays in there, and then I can run my other power in there. So they make, various number of these, right? So for your power, you're probably going to need one of these larger Wagos to connect all the power to each of the LED strips and to the board and to this. And then these double ones are good for the data signals that go to each of the LED strips. And that's the easy way to wire that. So you feed power to this board, you solder, these things onto the board so that you can put that on there. And then where the IO pins are, and I'll show you all the pinouts on this ESP32 here in just a minute. Where those are, you just, run one of these green wires out and then just connect it to the green wire, solder a green wire to the end of your LED. And then you can just use a Wago connector to connect them. And that really is the easiest way. And then you can take it apart if you ever need to add something later. You don't have to try to solder all of these wires and do all of that. These Wago connectors are really, really good. I'll leave a link to this kit in the description as well. But that's basically how you put it together, right? You can solder this directly to the board, but again, I would recommend putting it on this little riser. And then it's just a matter of finding where the power is and making sure you connect that. And then using the right IO pins, and I'll show you how to easily do that. And then, run a green wire from there, connect all of your power together, connect your data pins together, and then go from there. So let's jump in and let me show you how to figure out how to wire this ESP32. All right, so here's a pinout guide from lastminuteengineers.com. You can go to their website and take a look at this. But this is the pinout for the board. Here's where your voltage in needs to go, is on this first pin right here, and your ground needs to go on this pin. From there, it's just a matter of using one of these GPIO pins and remembering which number you use. WLED defaults to GPIO 16, so you probably seen everybody count up 6 here to get to GPIO 16, but you can use any of these GPIOs as your data signal. So in this example, I won't be using 16 just to force myself to use a different one so I learned that skill. So I'm not using this giant board for one little pin, right? So we'll put one pin on GPIO 2, and that'll go to one LED strip for my X1, and then on the other one will be the A1 Mini. And you don't necessarily have to do this, but again, I wanted to challenge myself to learn these new skills. So I'll be using these two right here. WLED defaults to this one right here, but I'll show you how to easily change that. So knowing all of the parts that we're going to use there, what pinouts we're going to use, we'll use these two and then these two right here. Let's go ahead and open up the back of the little LED sign that I made, and I'll show you how I put everything together. All right, so let's take a look at what's going on here. So right here are the 3 wires for this LED. Right here are the 2 power wires going into here. And if you make your hole 11 millimeters, this little barrel connector thing basically threads into the PLA on its own. And then you'll see there's 3 wires for this LED and then this little board. And this is what I mean by kind of making it modular and how easy it can be to do that. So you'll see that I have the 2 data wires that are soldered down to 2 and 4 for the GPIO, as we saw in there. And then we jumped the power and ground wire over. And then you'll see these risers are on there. So now all I have to do is snap on the ESP32, and this is ready to go. So the only soldering that I needed to do was to solder this down, these little jumpers, and then the 2 data pins. And then obviously you got to solder to the LED strip or cut off the other end or whatever. So now we can snap this down and then put it in to this little cavity that I cut out there. And then I just went on to Amazon, and it has the measurements for where these holes are, and I just made little risers for that right there. So this brings power to the board. This goes to each of the LED strips for the data. Then all the power is connected together with the Wago strips. All the grounds are connected together, and then there's just 2 of these for the data. So let me show you the power for an example. So we'll start with the power coming from the wall. Just go in there, snap that together. We can take the power from this LED, put it in there, take the power from the board, put it in there, and the power from the other LED, and put it in there. And that is super easy to do. And then you just do that with the ground. So I'll do that with the ground and fast forward through it so you don't have to watch all of that. All right, and then with the power and the ground out of the way, now I just need to connect each of the data signals to the right place. And I went ahead and put a piece of tape on here so I could remember which one goes to which. Right, so I do know that the 4 goes to the X1C, so that we just take our 2 connector, connect that in there, and then do the same thing with the other one for the A1 Mini. And now you can see everything's wired up. I have a little cover for this. I'll leave this on Makerworld so you can see how I made this, help you design yours. But now you just put a cover on there and mount it to the wall, right? And then you just plug in the power right there and you're good to go. So let's go over how to set up WLED in order to support the 2 data pins. So I'll see you at the computer. All right, so here we are in WLED. Let me show you how I set this up. So we go into the config tab right here and go to LED preferences. Each one of those strips of LEDs that I have is 30. So I do need to do 2 of these. So you set up the first one, and then you just select right here. By default, this will be on 16. But as you remember, I'm using 2 and 4. So all I had to do was just type in 2 right here, save it, come back in here, and then you'll see this plus button. So you can start adding more data pins in there. So you tell it how many LEDs are in there. For the strip that I'm using, it's GRB, and it's this WS281X. And then we add a second one with the same length, and we connected that one to GPIO4. So we just select GPIO4 there and hit save. And then you can hit make a segment for each output and hit save. And that's very, very handy as well, as now when we go back in here, we'll see that we have 2 segments. Each of them are 30 LEDs. And I just changed the name of this one to X1C and this one to the A1 Mini. And now I have 2 separate segments that are addressable and can do different things. So I can change the different effects that were on here and do that. For example, the effect that was on the A1 Mini was Chun Chun, and it was using the color profile departure. And then for the X1C, that was on sweep random with default color profile on there. So really all you need to do is go in there and configure those 2 segments like that, come in here and rename them. And you can set it up from there, but basically everything that we'll do to these from here on out will be in Home Assistant. So let me go ahead and open up Home Assistant, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so here we are in Home Assistant, and let me show you how to get all of this set up. So one of the things that I would do is actually open 2 pages here with Home Assistant. And you'll see why we need that here in just a moment. Okay, so let's go to this first one. We can go to our devices. Once you've added your WLED, it'll show up in here. The one that we'll be looking at is this double progress bar, and we'll see that it has these 35 entities in here. And this will be important for us to have here in just a minute. But you'll also notice that once we've added our Bambu Lab in here and both of our devices, we can see that within this device, if we scroll down a little bit, we'll see that we have the print progress. So we'll need that as well. So here's the A1 Mini print progress, right? So we'll need to be able to reference this here in a minute. So in one of these screens, we're going to need these entities open so we can copy and paste these things. And then in the other screen, we're going to start to set up some automations, okay? And so let's switch over to this screen and select automations. And I'll show you the automation that I have for this now, and then we'll go set one up. So let's go into this automation here, and you'll see that I have a lot of triggers here, and then a then do, and you'll see choose between 6 actions. So this is a function within Home Assistant where you can set up multiple triggers and then have it choose what action to do based off of that trigger. So these are all of the things that we'll need to set up for each of the printers. I'll go over how to set one of these up, and then you just basically have to do it a whole bunch of times. But we need to know when the print started, if the print failed, if the print was canceled, if it was finished, and we need that for each of the printers that we have. Okay, and then we'll give it a choice of actions to do. If the A1 print started, then it's going to do something. If the A1 print failed or was canceled, then it'll do something. And then when it finishes, it'll do something. And then same thing with the X1C. So that's kind of the basic schematics of this, but I'll show you how to start this from scratch. We'll go ahead and leave. We're going to create a new automation and create it from scratch here. So let's start with one of the printers starting to print. So we'll add that trigger. Okay, so we'll select our device here, and under device, we'll choose my A1 Mini. We'll do that one for an example. And you'll see down here that it has these different triggers, right? Print started, canceled, failed, error detected, finished, and you'll see all of these different things. And you can have different things do stuff when the light's on or off, or all of this different stuff, right? All of that can be a trigger. So we'll need to set up another one for canceled, failed, finished. So here's print started. So one of the things that we'll need to do is we'll need to be able to kind of name each of these triggers and reference it in the then do stuff below here. So we'll hit these three dots here and we'll hit edit ID. Renaming it just names it for right up here. Edit ID actually edits the trigger ID. So let's call this my A1 Mini print started. And I do go ahead and that's not AI Mini, A1 Mini. And I do go ahead and copy that and then do put the same one in rename. All right, so that gives us this trigger ID and a trigger. So whenever the A1 Mini print started happens, this trigger will go ahead and happen. So now under the then do, we select add action, and we go down here to building blocks, and we select choose. So this will let us choose these triggers. So we'll build more of these triggers, as you saw I had in the other one. And now this will allow us to choose between each of those triggers. So we go down to option 1 here and we hit add condition. And we hit the other and triggered by. And you'll see that now it has that A1 Mini print started as that trigger. So we go ahead and select that. So now when this A1 Mini print starts, this option will be satisfied. So now we can add an action to that. So what we want to do is we want to turn our WLED light on and put it in the % mode. Okay, so we go ahead and select turn on. For a light turn on, we call that service. Choose entity. And this is where this has this, having the second one up handy is so you can go and find what these entity ID names are. For this one, I know it's this double progress bar, this first one right here. That's what I named the WLED, and this is the first strip, right? It starts with segment 0, and then segment 1 is my X1C. So we'll see that it has segment 1 down here. This is the first segment, so we'll select that. And I like the A1 Mini to be in blue, so we can select color name, blue. And then down here for the effect, we hit %. Now, just doing this is not going to feed the percentage of the print done. That's going to be a separate automation that we do. But when the print starts, we want to put it in that % mode with the proper color. Okay. So that's how we do that. And then we can minimize all of that. So there's the option 1 when the A1 Mini print started. So let's add one more trigger in here for print finished. And again, you can do all of the rest of them, but I'll show you how this kind of works here. So we're going to edit the ID. I think I still have that on paste. So now I can just change this to finished. And then same thing with rename. And I just still had this copied, so I just repasted it. Ooh. Helps if I can spell. All right, so now we have this second ID here, and now we can add a second option, add the condition, other conditions triggered by, and now you'll see the print finished as an option there. And we'll add an action. So when it finishes, we might want it to do blink green or something like that. So again, we'll choose that same entity. And since we want it to blink green, we'll go down here to green. And then for the effect, that's called blink. So we can just type blink right here. And what I like to do is we can minimize this. What I like to do is add a pause because I don't want it to blink green forever. So we'll add an action and we'll go down to, I think it's building blocks. Yeah, wait for time to pass. We'll say 2 minutes. Then we'll add an action to turn the light on. And that first animation that you saw in the intro was called Chun Chun. And the color profile that it was using was called Departure. There is a way that we can change that as well, but we can change the effect to Chun Chun. Right, so now it's going to turn on and do the blink, wait 2 minutes, change over to Chun Chun. And then the next thing that we'll need to do is go into the device. And that's the double progress bar. And here's where you can change like the color palette and everything like that. So what we're looking for is change double progress bar color palette. And you'll see here it has like next option, but change double progress bar palette option. So if you want to specify a specific palette, then you can do that. And the one that we were using is called Departure. All right, so when the print is finished, it will change over to the blink in green. It'll do that for 2 minutes. It'll change back to that Chun Chun and then change it back to the Departure color palette. So that's kind of a lot, but that's what you can do for each one of your printers for the started and the finished. For the error ones, you can do basically the same thing you did here, but change the blink from green to red, right? Or whatever color you want it to blink, or yellow, or whatever it is, whatever color you want it to blink, so that it'll let you know that there's an error or the print stopped or something like that. So I went ahead and did that for both of my printers with all of those options, and that was the automation that you saw before. All right, so now let's talk about the automation that you need in order to update the progress bar. So to update the progress bar, whenever you change this over to %, it's the intensity is the % of fill. So from 0 to 100 will be the % of the fill. So how many of the lights that it'll light up. That's how this % works. So we need to be able to change the intensity of each one of these segments and change that intensity to match, right? If it's at 68% or 77%, print done, then we want it to be 77% of fill here as well. So let's dive in and look at how to do that. All right, so here we are in the new automation, and this is going to be the tough one to do. So basically what we're telling it here is this trigger ID is whenever the print progress changes at all. So we want to leave all of this blank down here. And just look at the A1 mini print progress, right? So I select that as the entity or whatever. Whenever that changes at all, I want it to do something. And then same with the X1C here. So, and then we want to rename the trigger ID to be X1C or whatever it is that you can remember what each one of these trigger IDs. If you only have one printer, then you only need to do this one time. But here's our entity ID, A1 mini changed progress and all of that. The next part down here, we will go ahead and select our first option. When the A1 mini changes, we're going to turn the double progress bar on, and we're going to change that to %. Okay, in this particular one, I have it to change the progress bar to a random cycle color palette. But if you just wanted to focus on red or whatever color you wanted, you could just change the color name on here, right? So the first thing that we want to do whenever it changes, and this helps whenever if you pause the print and then hit restart, it'll put itself back into the right mode, and this will help to make sure that it's back in that % mode every single time that you do this. And then the last part is the number set, and that's the hardest part, and there will be a bit of code that you'll need to run in YAML here in order to do this. And I'll leave this below, and you can copy and paste this in here. But really it's add action, number set, and then once you have this number set open, go ahead and edit in YAML, and you're going to just copy and paste my code into that same one. And the things that you're going to need to change is the sensor for the progress is right there. And then where you want it, what number you want it to change. So here you'll see that we have a number, the name of my LED bar, and here's the intensity number for it. So what this does is it will take this state of print progress and change it into a float, and then add it into the intensity to change the number of the LED. Okay, so that's all you need to do there. And what makes this really, really handy is to have this second one open. So for this first one, we need this sensor for the A1 mini print progress. So we go over here and we'll see here's that print progress. We'll see that listed right here. You just click on that, click on this gear, and you can hit copy right there. Come over here and in between these little quotes, highlight that, delete it, and just paste in what you just copied. And then same thing on the entity ID here. We'll need to go out of this, go to WLED, go into these entities, and now we're looking for that intensity, right? And there's that number intensity. Same thing, hit the little gear, hit copy there, and you're going to go and paste that right in there and hit paste. That is what does the magic. So now whenever the A1 print progress changes in any way, it will fire off this option right here. So it'll turn the progress on to %. For this one, I have it selecting a certain color palette. So if you want it to do a color palette or whatever, you can do that, or you can just change it, make a color in there. And then it's going to set the progress bar intensity. And again, that's how we set how far up the stack of LEDs that it shows, right? It's with this option right here. Okay. So once we have all of that set up, then, now I just have all the same stuff for my other printer set up. And with all of that set up, now whenever my printer starts, it automatically changes it over to the percent mode. And as the progress changes, it updates the LED bar and it climbs up as it's needed. And it does that for both printers. So if you have a whole print farm, you could do this for each and every one of the printers. It is a little bit of a chore to get started, but once it's done, you don't have to do it again. And, it's very, very handy to have. So it takes 2 automations in here. One automation to start things off or to stop things or to say when there's an error or a failure or anything like that. And then this automation right here is probably the toughest one to do. And really it's just this number set right here is the tough part. And you have to do that in YAML, but I will leave this code below. Just change this entity right here to your printer progress and the one that you find in there, and then just change this one to the intensity number of your LED strip. And it's really that easy. And then you can set all of these options to do whatever you want from there. All right. So once all of that's done, then you have the finished product like I showed before, and everything will work just fine. So I hope you have a lot of fun with this project. I sure did. This was the toughest part, was the Home Assistant stuff. So hopefully this helps you. Definitely want to see what you guys come up with on your prints and see what kind of progress bars that you guys do. So go ahead and make a progress bar and join us on Saturday evenings and show it off and show us how you made it and what you made it out of. And hopefully showing how to set it all up and everything was a big help to everybody. So that's all I have for today. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend and a great rest of your week. I'll see everybody next weekend. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.